Okay, so sorry. Welcome everybody to the presentation customs services here at HANNON. What we're going to look at this morning is movements from ROI to NI. ROI and NI to GB. There is going to be part of this is going to deal with the NI protocol as well. So just before I go through the slides with you, time-wise, we're not fixed to any precise time, but we're going to look at, say, 1 hour 30 minutes. I'm going to take you through the material, and I'm guessing 25 to 30 minutes we'll go through the material. After this, what we can do is then look at questions and answers. If you can, send through your queries to Brexit at HANNONtransport.com. The materials are really pitched at a level which is practical, and I did think about this before I put through these various slides. This is not going to be a crash course on customs processes and procedures. We want to avoid overloading people with too much information at this stage, and really it's a practical illustration of what we are proposing to do on the 1st of January. And really it's saying to you as the customer as well what you need to do. And it's really then a combination of what you're going to do for us, what we're going to do for you. And I'll show you how that hopefully then combines into the processes that we're going to follow through. So I'm going to start and just take you through the slides. My name's Donard McCann. I was involved with HANNON Transport here over the last 12 months, and that's to lead through our Brexit preparations. Now, I would add that it's not just myself who's been involved in these preparations. These preparations have been ongoing since the start of this year, and they really have involved senior management, and that's been a crucial part of the process as well. So everybody has collectively joined into this within HANNON Group, and it has brought forward those preparations to the point where we're at today. My background is in law. That overlaps into quite a lot of the regulatory aspects. I've got some complementing with that, customs procedures, customs courses. But setting all that aside, I think what we've seen over the last 12 months is the most important thing in all of this. And again, this is again reaching at the practical points of this. Brexit has been a large problem, and I think as part of our preparations here, it's breaking down the larger problem into smaller segments, and that's what we essentially have done, where we have created a number of different boxes that we have to tick, those processes that we have to go through in order to ensure that movements do proceed and can carry through efficiently. So that's one of the most important things. You can have all the training, you can have many years experience doing customs exercises, processes, but unless you have actually fixed boxes in place where everybody knows what each other is doing, then all the years experience and knowing how to do things is just part of the solution. And what we have got, as I say, is really a number of different processes that all come together, and they're essential, they're core. So we have involved external customs consultants. They've mostly been to advise us in relation to our external as opposed to internal requirements. So you'll see later on in the material that we have got a number of applications for various approvals. All these approvals are to ensure that all the movement flows pass in and out of the various customs borders and all the various customs controls. If there's any controls that can be done, what we would describe as uptown, so away from the port, we've also looked at those. Anything that we can see that would help the efficiency, that's really where our customs consultants have been brought in from the early part of last year. If there is anything that you do need, this material, as I say, it's really the start of a conversation. So anything that you do need from me, any queries, please do contact me, because there is no doubt in my mind that people will still have queries after these materials, and it's going to be impossible in 45 minutes or even an hour to really show everybody everything that they need to know in order to answer all the questions. So there is going to be follow-up, and I'm accepting of that, and we're quite happy to try and help with that. So Glenn, important member of the team. Everybody's an important member of the team here. Glenn joined ourselves 3-4 months ago. He's part of the management preparations, and I think some of the customers here probably have had some dealings with Glenn. And again, that's Glenn's email. I should add that all of the material will be published on our website. I should have said that at the very start. So just to let you know that, in case you're thinking anything will be missed out. So if there is anything you see in the slides and I'm rushing through, you needn't worry. All of this material is going to be on the website. So we've got 20 administrators here in Temple Patrick. Our customs team has access to and shares information with our customs, our transport management system, and that's accessed by all the transport planners across the HANNON group. This ensures complete interaction between our transport and customs team. Now, I don't want to bore everybody here with explaining to your internal systems, but I can't emphasize enough that the more we have looked at the processes, information is key. Information flows and your products move from A to B. Very, very simple. So data management is absolutely crucial. And what we have identified here is the priority to ensure that transport can see the information that comes in from you as the customer. Our customs team here in Temple Patrick can see that information as well. Everybody has a complete visibility in that. And as I say, the reason why I'm pondering on this point is because information makes goods move across customs borders. It's as simple as that. And we have identified that as absolutely key. We have deployed a lot of systems to ensure that that information is passing. And that, as I say, is very, very key to all of the movements. Without data and without information, nothing moves. It's as simple as that. So in order to complement the processes, we've got standard operating procedures. These have been drafted, and they're going to be applicable, and it will apply from the 1st of January. And again, I hate to labour on about this point about processes, but as I say, the entire customs formalities can have all the experience in the world, but in order to have people and processes to deploy what we need to do, then it becomes very difficult. Situation is nobody knows what's going to happen until Sunday. It appears these timelines keep extending in terms of the trade negotiations. So worst case scenario as opposed to best case scenario processes have been mapped out. We have to be robust. We can't have high wire preparations hoping for the best. That we haven't done that. So all of the processes we have in place are based on full border controls come the 1st of January. So I'm touching back on the external customs consultants. So they were brought in primarily to look at applications both in Republic of Ireland and here in Northern Ireland for temporary storage facilities. I don't want to again labour too much about these, all to say to you that really they're there to allow us, give us options in terms of bringing goods to these sites where customs inspections can be carried out away from the port. Transits are important. These temporary storage facilities, we have authorised consignor, consignee applications pending at the moment, and we envisage that being an authorised consignee, consignor status will improve again the flows. So as I say, we've looked for everything that we can to try and assist. So Customs agent, we can act as your direct representative. Again, I don't want to get into the finer detail about differences between direct and indirect representation. That's something that you can do as a follow-up with myself and, or Glenn. Some of you may recognize these things, and I should have said at the very start that I do recognize there'll be people with varying levels of experience on here. There'll be some customers who have maybe very diligently and have their own maybe internal Brexit teams. So to those customers, you're just going to have to simply bear with me. As I say, we have to reach out to every customer here, and I may well be explaining things and covering ground that, you know, the more experienced and customers who have really carried out their own training may be aware. But essentially, this is the first step. It's internal housekeeping for both you and ourselves. So we want you as a customer to appoint us as your agent if we are going to be delivering our services to you. So you can go onto the website and download that Customs Authority, and that can be sent through by email to brexit@hannontransport.com. So that's the first step. The reason why we need that is because we look down the line, and what we can see coming down the tracks is we are going to have compliance checks, as indeed will you as the customer if you're moving goods, by Revenue or HMRC. So we want to do the thing right from the very start. We want to maintain good, trusted relationships with HMRC and Revenue. All these things do matter. We have had one of our customs consultants as a former head of Revenue Compliance in Republic of Ireland, and he has given us very solid practical advice that these tick boxes should be done, and it gets everybody off to a good start. So for full load customers, you have the choice of completing your own declarations. If there's an error, then essentially the responsibility falls on you. So we're not taking away the option for full load customers to carry out their own customs pieces. That's absolutely your choice. But as I say, without pressing responsibility onto you, you have to embrace that. So what comes with a custom declaration comes with responsibility. Grippage or part load customers, we must complete all customs declarations. So the reason for that is that it's really risk. If we have multiple customers, which we will have, and each one decides, not even each one, two decides to do their own declaration, that increases the risks for us. The risks are that if one customer makes an error, and you know, in the first few months, there is going to be much more error-prone risks here. Everybody is finding their ways into new processes, so we can't have a load delayed because of errors, and that makes life very, very tricky and very difficult for everybody. So we have to take that control. And for some people wondering why we have to do that, that's the reason why I put this in the slide. It's not that we want to grab the business, it's a case of necessity over choice for us. So this is where we're maybe getting into what you really want to know, which is the processes. We look at ROI to GB. So I'm purposely avoiding too much information overload, but I want to do is just let you know that the UK has published its updated border operating model. I think that's updated on the 8th of October, just this year. That's quite a detailed document, and it essentially sets out all the controls that the UK wish to impose on movements of goods into its territory from the 1st of January. So you can look at that. I think it is on their .gov UK website. So for your typical movement from ROI to GB, you're looking at an export declaration. We need to have a commercial invoice. We need to have your packing list. So those are the documents. Exit summary declaration, otherwise safety and security. GB then, you have the entry, and they've got the option, the 6-month deferment period, where they can make an entry in their own records. That runs up until the 1st of July 2021. This is the information that they should include in their own records. I don't really want to go through this in forensic detail, but it's there. And again, there's a huge amount of information available that you can look at yourself in terms of the information that needs to be retained. And you'll see at the bottom, supplementary full declaration and within 175 days from the date the goods were imported into GB. So this is touching on the sanitary, phytosanitary notifications via IPAFS. All of this again is in the operating model that the UK has published, and as a bit of a grace period, we can call it. The UK has deferred any sanitary, phytosanitary notifications onto the 1st of April 2021. A lot of people here will probably already know that, but I can't avoid stating these things, as I say, in case people are unsure. After that, the system is IPAFS. We are registered to make these notifications post 1st of April 2021 on IPAFS as well. So anybody moving goods from ROI into GB, you have got that sort of deferment period in place. That's quite important for us because I'm going to look at the EU equivalent of how they control their border control posts using their EU system, which is traces, and those trigger 24-hour notice periods. So that's quite a useful relaxation onto the 1st of April at least. So we're looking here again at processes and those sanitary, phytosanitary processes combined, GB going the other direction to ROI. So it's just a similar process in reverse. You've got your GB export declaration, commercial invoice packing list, ROI import declaration, and we have to have an entry summary declaration as well into ROI. So this is important for customers who are subject to these border control posts controls. Trace the system. If you're not already registered, please, you need to contact the Department of Agriculture, Food and Marine. Trace the system. A notification creates a common health entry document, and that is in respect of all products, for example, of animal origin, plant products, moving from GB into ROI. And as I said there in the first point, the pinch point, the pressure point, operational wise, is 24 hours before arrival. We have spoken to the department, and some of the customers maybe on here will have done the same, and subject to being corrected in this, but we're told that the 24 hours is something that is going to be in force. Whether it's strictly speaking enforced, we don't know, but we operate on that 24-hour period. Copy of the export health certificate must be submitted, so we have to have that. By the way, we are registered. I'm jumping ahead to the final point here. HANNON is registered as responsible. Our activity on Trace's system is that we can submit these entries. We're registered for the consignment, responsible for the consignment, so we can submit these notifications. And as I say, they require an export health certificate to be submitted. The original export health certificate has to be provided and accompanied to along with the goods. Exporter and importer registered on Traces. The last time I spoke to registration department was a week ago, and they said it takes about a week. So if anybody needs a contact, I have a contact name and an email address if anybody needs to have some sort of information on that within their registration department. So as I say, we're registered and we can make these notifications. They're quite, I have to say, they are tricky, and there's quite a lot of information. It even drills down to vessel names arriving into the port. obviously requires the vehicle ID. There's a lot of information here, and this is going back to the point I said at the start, that we observed that a lot of the information we reuse, if I can use that phrase, and it means that we can recycle information to do various things, to do an export declaration, to do an import declaration, to do all these safety and security declarations. And as well as that, we can use a lot of that information to do these traces. So it all goes back to having somewhere centrally. So we're looking at NI to GB to NI. This is really the NI protocol, and I know there was announcements yesterday, and I have to confess I haven't seen a huge amount of detail, and what you probably saw in the media is no more than what I've seen. So I'm purposely avoiding getting into a huge amount of detail, because I think we want to see exactly how everything works in this, and we will, as soon as we get that level of detail, then we'll get that further material put on our website. But at a high level view of this, the process, high level process is that the transit movement, we will look at continuing transit movements or movements from NI, GB via the Dublin route. That will involve a transit movement. We're moving goods from NI, and as you know, the most basic thing under the protocol is that NI is aligned to many of the EU regulations, remains part of the UK customs territory. So it's almost got this hybrid role. And that means that we can move under transit from NI via ROI to GB. It's a transit because obviously it's moving through ROI, so it's moving from the UK customs territory via EU and back into UK. We can do the exit and entry summary declarations for ROI. Routing is Dublin, Holyhead ports, and as I say, that's subject to the NI protocol. And I do want to just emphasize that there is going to be a bit more detail. There will be more detail in this, but I prefer to see the detail first and publish that whenever we have it. So this is something that I wanted to just flag up as well. It's not part of the customs processes, but it's kind of keeping what I said at the start about this is practical material, and this is where we're trying to make sure that, you know, customers are at least aware. We're not here to solve every problem that, you know, Brexit can put in front of us, but we want to highlight to you, the customers. So you may have heard of ISPM 15, so International Standards for Vital Sanitary Measures, number 15. EU position is that may only be introduced, this is wood packaged material, may only be introduced into the Union if it is compliant with a treatment mark as specified. So that's basically to the measure 15. UK position seems to be the same, and I did see that it appears for, it's not part of this presentation, the one I did yesterday morning was intra-EU movements, and it would appear that ISPM 15 does not apply to those movements intra-EU, and I think obviously that's now why it has started to raise some concerns. So as I say, all I'm doing at this stage is flagging it up. We will certainly do all the customs pieces and various other things, but it's again, as I say, practical stuff. So the UK and member states have developed their own preboarding notification system. So this is important. We can submit declarations, we can submit safety and security declarations. Once we do all of that, our trucks to enter ports do have to be customs declared, and the aim of these electronic systems seems to be to try and avoid bottlenecks at ports. We are going to be running tests today and tomorrow using the Irish system Preboarding notification system, and the UK have got a similar Preboarding notification system, the GVMS, sorry, that should be. And as I say, they all really have one fundamental aim, and that is that the port, we make these shipping notifications, and the idea is that those companies or those movements that have got what's called an Mrn number, movement reference number, you're basically ensuring, or the port's management is ensuring, that those trucks are going to then enter the port. So if you haven't got a movement reference number, the idea is you don't really get into the port. The Irish PBN system, which we're going to look at and test, seems to go a bit further than that, and actually you can't even book the ferry unless you've got your PBN number. So setting aside the fact that they don't want you in the port, you don't even have the truck or that function to get the truck on the ferry. So we're going to be taking care of these notifications. I think I would pause at this stage and say that there's some people, and as I say, very happy that customers will do their own pieces, more than happy. We're not trying to ring fence. HANNON Transport is a transport company, and if customers who are transport companies are going to do their own pieces. But the important thing is, whenever a customer says we're doing our own, they have to remember that there's those tick boxes are important that I mentioned. This is one of them, these pre-boarding notifications. And there's not a huge amount of data required. It's just the vehicle registration number and the Mrn number. But they have to be done, because I come back to what I said, information's key. So we need to do these, and if customers are going to be doing their own, we need to find out, when are we getting an Mrn number? How are we getting that Mrn number? So it's all about who does what, when, where, and how. So we don't mind customers who are looking after their own pieces, let's say, but we do need to know, map that out for us. And as I say, if you do contact Len, and now's the time, rather than waiting to the 30th of December, because at that point it'll be very difficult and more time consuming. So it's better knowing exactly who's doing what. And as I say, if this is really related to those companies or customers rather are going to do their own, if we're going to be doing the customs pieces, then we control everything ourselves. So that's not an issue. We have all the information from start to finish. The portal, customers have been asking us how do we give you information? And as I say, information is key. The portal has been developed to the point where we're now testing the portal, and there's going to be emails being sent out to customers who will be given their own login credentials. So you as the customer will see this on your screen. You'll have your email login and password. I think the email credential or the login credentials are going to be sent out by email next week, I understand. So I'm going to take you through some screenshots here just to show you this is going to be as simple an interface as we can make it to collect the information that we need. And there's going to be a walkthrough of this published on our website as well. So first thing you will see is your customer code. So that's going to be your own unique ID. This here will be your job reference number. And I want to just pause at this. Whenever you contact planners today and you arrange your booking your load or your movement or your delivery collection, you will do that the same as you do today. So we want to keep that process the same. People are familiar with that. Our internal planners are familiar with it. It works. and we don't want to change something that already works. So you will contact the planning department or whoever it is today. We keep that the same as it is today, will be the 1st of January. And once you get your job number from the planner, then at that stage, and only when you're content that all of the information about your products and the movement is finalized, there's no flexibility here. There is flexibility, but it's difficult to just press rewind if we have already submitted declarations. So the reason why we're saying to customers is please check and finalize everything before you enter the information onto the system. So you have your job number at this point. You'll see more how this works on the walkthrough. Today's presentation is just giving you an insight into the system, but the walkthrough video will be much clearer. You select your route option, so it may well be ROI to GB. We're going to have different routes here. It could be EU to EU transit, could be GB to ROI. I said to the presentation yesterday, a large part of this will be blanked out or grayed out for transit movements, where HANNON is looking after everything in terms of consignor, consignee. That'll not be the case for your export and import movements. So you're going to have to produce your consignor, consignee information, and in terms of the ROI number, ROI numbers. Now I know that our team here have been looking at getting the ROI numbers and trying to capture that information from you, and I think that's important to continue that because the more information we can build up on our database and have that already there makes life easy for everybody. But as I say, at this stage, it's giving you an insight as to what information you expect on the portal. So this here is really client billing information. Your name, contact name is important to go in here. Commercial invoice number, Incoterms. There's been a lot of information available on the internet about Incoterms. Again, I'm not in a 45-minute slot. I can't, much as I would like to, I can't start explaining individual Incoterms. What I'm saying here is, folks, you need to be aware of Incoterms. If you have not already checked this out, you need to contact your customer, and you basically need to understand who pays for what, who's going to pay for transport. The key thing here is who's going to pay for any import duty, who's going to be responsible for doing the customs declarations, that export declaration, import declaration. So if you do have any queries, speak to Glenn or contact some of the members of our own internal team here. Everybody here is happy to try and help you, because the more information you have, we don't want people coming on the 1st of January and clicking this option and not really having an idea of what to put in. And you need to avoid the risk of taking a second guess, because if there's import duty and you put in an Incoterm that's not correct, that has consequences. So you need to get that finalized in your own mind as to how you're trading on the 1st of January. Invoice currency, it gives us options here. So there's Euro option or GBP, and we've got an open text box here, which is really for you to put in your own notes. We would hope that the notes will be kept to a minimum, but we understand there may be queries, so you can put in a note here if you wish. Other relevant information is information that you would expect: collection date, collection time, address. Again, you can become familiar with this whenever you see it being put on the the website collection notes. I would also say at this point that some of the information here may well be relevant to our transport, and at the outset we were designing this that it would capture some transport information, but we have changed that, and this is going to be solely capturing collecting customs information. And I'll explain in a wee second what happens whenever you submit this information. So we're coming to another key part of the information that we need. Commodity codes. Again, I talked about ROI numbers are important. I mentioned that Incoterms are important, and top of the list, commodity codes, and that's going to even be top of the list if there's going to be import duty, because if you've done any research at all, you know that that's going to drive the tariff and what duty is going to be payable. So you can key in your commodity code. Again, there's going to be options here, search functionality. I'm going to just defer, get into too much detail. I don't want to spend too much time on this, other than just to show you what's going to appear in your screen. The walkthrough video will be a bit more in depth. You can put in your commodity code here. You can have your own product code, origin country, transport item type. Temperature is something that will not appear. We don't need customs to need to know the temperature. You have all our information here that we need to collect, and the number of pallets, packages, gross net weight, item value. Once you get down to this point, you can save that, and there's also actually an option as well. You'll see that you can key in a further commodity code. Now, once you do key this information in, it'll arrive with ourselves here, and we will check the information, but the responsibility is really on yourselves to make sure that this is correct. So you need to be making sure that commodity codes are correct, because once we see a commodity code, unless there's something obvious, then we assume that you as the customer have provided the correct information to us. In terms of information, when that has to be provided, we haven't drawn a hard and fast line on this, but at the moment we are looking at making sure we get this customs information at least 4 hours before the time of loading. That is important because we have to then arrange to do all the various customs pieces that we have to do. There's going to be information passed back and forth internally, this is, and we do need that window of opportunity, and we can't afford having information passing to especially those pre-boarding notifications, which are generous enough in terms of we need to let the pre-boarding notifications, we can submit those up to 1 hour, I think it is, but we're not looking at that as the cut-off point. We do need to have some sort of period there, and we've looked at the 4 hours. Information, sorry, that's information for transit. Your information for your export documents is really that information that would be keyed in back here. So that's the information, that's the key components of the information that we need to complete the export and to complete the import declarations. That might be subject to some changes. As I say, we're running tests on this system. This presentation is not about giving you an in-depth run through of the portal. It's to show you that we have the portal. It will be live, I think, from 27th, 28th of December, but it's been tested right up until that point. So and it's built, ready to go at the moment. So it's not a case that we're not exactly racing here to suddenly have it built. It's a case that we want to have it tested and tested for any bugs or errors or whatever might appear. So that's why I'm just saying to you that there could be some tweaks in it but as far as you're aware, that's what you're going to see. For transit movements, there's a reduction. Obviously, the transits here in terms of NI protocol, NI via ROI to GB, vice versa. So there's a reduction in the amount of information we need, because it's not an export or an import. As I said before, you have to contact the planners before submitting this information, and we want to keep that piece of the process the same as it is today. So in terms of next steps, what I would encourage you to do, as I've already said, is look at the information you need. This is a taster. This is, as I said at the start, it's an opportunity for you to engage with us. We've got 20 people here, more than happy to answer queries, help out. You can come to myself, come to Glenn with queries. Big part of all of this, customers, how much are we being charged? Understandably. At the moment and within the next couple of days, we are hoping to get these rates finalised. The rates will be as competitive and more than competitive or equally competitive with current market rates. We have involved agents in European countries, particularly Holland, where a lot of our transit movements go back and forth. And we've got some indicators as to what market rates are. We've also got GB rates. And as I say, the main purpose of this customs process is to support the transport. We're not out to grab business from customers who would like to do the declarations or whatever pieces in the process they need to do themselves. So we will get rates published if you do bear with us on that. And as I say, we can do all processes, and I've said to you that there's a number of those processes. So the rates cover not just for doing an export and an import declarations. Those certainly are big pieces, but we also need to spend time, and we have staff employed that need to do all our processes as well. So everything is rolled into our rates. So as I say, all this material will be published in the Brexit section of our website. So you needn't worry if there's anything you've missed out. And I have absolutely no doubt there will be questions, queries, and this material is as much about, as I say, high level. It's as much about really at least getting you to the point where you know what to ask. And I know there's people who've been emailing and already doing that, and that's fine. A talk through of the HANNON web portal, we can do that. We'll be having that put up shortly. Customer logins sent out by email will be done next couple of days. Also important, this is not the start, it's the start, and it's certainly not going to be the finish in terms of our processes and in terms of our systems. So what we have put together in reasonably short period of time is really a system that's going to be functional from the 1st of January. It may not be perfect, and there's a lot of other systems that we have been looking at that might help the data flows. As I said to you, keep coming back, information is key, and there may well be more slicker ways that we will see once we actually start seeing how things work, and we can see how things can be improved. And that's going to be a two-way handshake between ourselves and you, because you'll maybe see things that we won't. And that's really what it's all about, is you as the user, as the customer, giving us constructive or not constructive feedback. We have to accept both, and we have to recognize that if there's things we need to change, we need to change. So we're accepting that. We're not saying this is it in stone. We have to make it work for everybody. So question and answer session, as I say, I hope that's 11:15, and I'm sorry if I've rolled on, but if you can send emails to Brexit at HANNON Transport, Now I do see there's some queries have come in. So somebody's asked, what is an exit summary declaration and an entry summary? And as I say, this presentation is really geared up for everybody's at different levels of experience. So essentially, the EU regulations require that if goods leave any part of its single territory, then we as the carrier have to submit safety and security declarations. So we have to tell the customs, we have to tell the port what's actually moving out of what's in the trailer, and they can then do a risk assessment. The responsibility for that in the first instance lies with the carrier, because the carrier is supposed to know what they are carrying in the trailer. The revenue have said to us this affects movements in and out of ROI, that they don't expect commodity codes to be put in these declarations, but they do expect descriptions of the goods at commodity code level. So this is the reason why I said we need commodity codes, because these commodity codes are going to be recycled in different declarations that we do. So that's basically what the exit and entry summary declarations are there to do. What is a transit accompanying document? So whenever we do a transit, we have to print off the declaration. It's an original transit declaration that will go with the goods, and that is produced. There's a barcode and an Mrn number at the top, and that will be produced on inspection at any control post in a third country, for example in GB. If the goods were traveling through GB, then border control will be able to see that document and identify that the goods declared are union goods transiting through the UK. What is an Mrn number? I've already mentioned that the Mrn number, the movement reference number, I would compare it as the boarding ticket. So we need the Mrn number after a declaration has been submitted. That Mrn number is key for us. We deal with that internally, or if any customers looking after their own pieces, they may well be able to have that. That Mrn number essentially ties in the movement, and the goods is wrapped into that reference number. So whenever we, and as I mentioned, the PBN system, so whenever we submit our Mrn number to the Irish PBN system, they then can send that through to the revenue. Again, I think it appears from their system that they can extract out of that reference number all the information that they need in terms of the manifest, what's been carried on the ship. So Mrn numbers are really, really important. Now there's somebody here is, I'm a GB exporter to ROI, and I have multiple customers, multiple consignments. What is the situation? So situation there is that I mentioned at the presentation yesterday that we can consolidate multiple consignments in a transit, and I'm afraid for that customer, sadly, that multiple consignments to multiple customer points is multiple declarations, multiple export declarations. If there's multiple customers, then that's an export. Each declaration represents a separate consignment. Do I need multiple health certificates? And I think the answer to that is yes. Those are multiple consignments supported by multiple export health certificates. That would be multiple traces entries. When I say multiple, I'm only responding to this customer because they have said multiple. So if it's one, fine. If it's two, then it is what it is. That's two. So do I need more than one traces notification for different consignments? Absolutely. Sadly, yes. So the CHED, the Common Health Entry document that we create, is actually a replica of the export health certificate. And I think the border control post will simply check that information against the export health certificate. So if there's more than one export health certificate, that's going to be a separate notification and traces. Can HANNON deal with both UK and ROI customs declarations? And the answer to that is yes. And the answer to that is yes, because we have got entities in the UK, we've got entity in ROI. So we can act as agent in both jurisdictions. Can multiple exports be in one load? Answer to that is yes. There is no issue with consignments grouped together, multiple consignments from GB to ROI and vice versa. Will you keep NI goods coming in from GB separate from ROI goods? Answer to that is, I think the answer to that is going to be yes. It's really a risk point of view, because the GB to ROI goods may well be subject to enhanced controls, whereas the goods from GB to NI, if they're moving onto the protocol, and it may be a light touch control in terms of a transit, whereas the GB to ROI goods and vice versa, by the way, may well be subject to more invasive controls, and actually GB to ROI will be subject to I think we're going to segregate those because one's moving under a different customs procedure to the other, so the transit's special customs procedure, so I think those will be separate. There's somebody has asked here about payment of duty. What I can say, and I don't want to go into so much detail about this today, as I say, this is just simply to raise you, let you know what we've done here in terms of our preparations with regard to duty. I think the best way that we can see is a deferment account. You as the customer, as an importer, will have to go and check out the ways in which you can pay your duty on that import. So a deferment account, you can look at opening that. I do know the deferment account needs to be supported by a guarantee for at least twice the amount that you want. But practically, I think that's an easier way. As I say, I'm not going to go into too much about that today, and unless customers raise specific queries in that, we can look at that, and perhaps we'll know where we're at on that after the weekend. As I say, that's the queries that have come into me so far, so please do send through queries to brexit@hannontransport.com, and if you bear with us, we will get an answer to as many of those queries as we can. And I hope you have enjoyed this. As I said at the start, it is not an all-inclusive, all-in, everything to do with Brexit solved. There's one last question here, has just come in. Do you expect delays at ports? So I think we kind of touched on this yesterday, and I think the short answer and the honest answer is going to have to be yes. The pre-boarding notifications are there as a solution electronically to try and reduce bottlenecks, but you know, there's going to be a lot of people not knowing what to do, and we can only do our piece, and that's for the, I'm speaking here in terms of the movements we're looking at the moment. So I'm afraid, sorry, we can't give there's going to be totally efficient movements. We will do our pieces, and you know, we have to see how this works out. What we do envisage is that the first few weeks may well be difficult, And what we also do recognise, and when we are confronted with all these processes, is that if people are not prepared, they may not, and maybe they shouldn't be trying to complete a movement. So that, as I say, is the short answer to that question, and it's something that we're hoping won't present a great difficulty, but it all depends as well on the port management systems being ready as well, and that's over to them. So we're part of the preparation on our side, as I say, is already very advanced to the point where we're starting to run tests and simulations, but we can't go any further. So that's fine if you keep all the questions coming through. And listen, thank you very much. As I say, please do come back with any further queries that you do have. We're here to help out. So many thanks. Thanks again for joining. Thank you.